How do I correctly apply plant trust? Does breaking up the soil remove a pre-emergent barrier? And what is going on with my hydrangeas? I've got answers to these questions and more coming up on Garden Sense. Hey everybody, I'm Tim Ward and welcome back to Garden Sense. Folks, before we get into the questions that we have for today, I want to talk a little bit about the video that we produced last week. Now, if you remember, we talked about your spreader settings relating to turf truss fertilizers, to gallery, and to dimension. And I mentioned in that video basically taking a ruler or some type of a tape measure and actually going down into the hopper and measuring that flow gate to the appropriate size, and then figuring out what setting correlates to that size. So for example, with the fertilizers, you want that opening to be 5/16 of an inch. With gallery, you want 3/8 of an inch. And with dimension, you want 1/4 of an inch. Well, after that aired, I actually got a text message from John Ernst. Now, if you don't know, John Ernst is actually the owner of Pro Trust products, and we sell a lot of Pro Trust products. We absolutely love what they produce over there at Pro Trust. And he sent me a simple text message that says, Tim, remind your customers that they can actually use a drill bit to measure that flow gate opening. And I felt like such a dummy because John has given me this advice for years, and I actually personally use it myself, but I simply forgot to pass that along to you. So what he means by that is a simple drill bit that was going to fit into an electric corded drill, something like that. Those are pretty standard sizes, 5/16, 3/8, and 1/4 inch. So if you can actually get one of those drill bits and actually open up the flow gate, slide it in, and then close the flow gate, that'll basically tell you how wide that flow gate is. And then you can actually, again, just adjust the settings on your spreader so that the tension is correct, and that is actually the setting that you would use going forward, and you would no longer need to use, that particular drill bits or drop anything down into the flow gate. So anyway, it was a great piece of advice, and I totally failed to share that, so I wanted to make sure I corrected that on this week's video. Now, we've got 5 questions that we want to share with you today, so buckle up everybody. Let's jump right in. The first question is from Diane. Tim, instructions for plant trust are to apply it throughout the root zone. Does that mean from the trunk out to the drip line, or does it mean at the drip line? Should it be applied perhaps just a little beyond the drip line where the roots will be growing to? So this is a great question, and you want to apply plant trust from the base of the tree all the way out a little bit past the drip line on whatever tree or bush that you are fertilizing. And the reason for that is most people think of the roots, obviously, as spreading laterally, but they also spread down. And so that actually creates, when we talk about a root ball when you're planting a tree or planting a shrub or something like that, the roots are going in all different directions. And so the reason that you want to cast it over that entire area is so that that nutrition that plant trust is putting into the soil actually is going to hit all of the roots and not just the roots that are going out along the drip line. And obviously the reason you want to go a little bit beyond the drip line is because plants often have little runners that are going to go out and extend beyond that drip line. That's really where they're going to pull in some new nutrition, and it's actually going to allow that tree to grow bigger. So again, great question, but from the base of the tree out past a little bit further than the drip line and everywhere in between, that's where you want to apply plant trust. Question number 2 is from Steve. Tim, I was wondering if breaking up the soil would remove the pre-emergent barrier. Would I then be able to reseed a bare spot even though a pre-emergent was applied previously? So the quick answer is yes. As soon as that pre-emergent barrier is broken, you're going to be susceptible to weeds, which means, in theory, yes, grass could also be planted in that regard. Now, I wouldn't recommend just breaking up the area because you want to overseed a bare spot. So this is actually what I would do. I would actually try and scrape off the first inch or so of topsoil in the area that you want to reseed, and then bring in some new topsoil and then follow that overseeding process. So you're going to want to put down the topsoil, you're going to put down some Barenbrug RTF seed, then you want to add some Turf Trust Professional starter fertilizer. Then what you want to do is cover that up with easy straw, and then make sure that you are watering it daily for at least 2 to 3 weeks. I would also make sure that you put down some Kickstart as soon as you start to see that grass start to grow and come up through the soil surface. Fact of the matter is, pre-emergent barriers get busted all the time, and that's where people get weeds, and they get frustrated because they constantly email me and say, hey, I put this down, but I've got this one area where weeds are coming up, and come to find out that they've got a dog or some other animals have been digging in the area and have actually, you know, broken up that barrier, in which case you're going to lose the protection that the chemical is providing. So you can absolutely do that, but again, I wouldn't just kind of agitate it and put down seed. I would actually try and remove some of that soil, bring in some new stuff, and then again, just follow the steps that I just outlined in terms of seeding that particular area. The next question is from Dan, and it's actually our weed of the week. Hey Tim, I have a neighbor with a terrible crop of onion grass popping up throughout her yard. She's used weed killers and also vinegar, but when she sprays, she also kills the surrounding grass, leaving a lot of brown spots throughout the yard. Is there a weed killer that will only kill the weeds, and in particular, the onion grass? So let's first talk about onion grass. And for those of you who have never identified it or don't know if you have it, there's a couple of telltale signs. First of all, if you are mowing your grass and all of a sudden you get a strong onion smell, chances are you've run over a patch of onion grass. From a visual perspective, onion grass literally will look like a bunch of chives, which are, you know, kind of thicker, dark green leaves that are sticking up from the soil surface, and they're actually going to stick up much higher than the level that you would typically mow your grass. So they're pretty easy to identify visually. They're also a little bit tough to kill, not because there aren't products that will kill them, but because people don't understand the nature of onion grass. It actually grows out of a bulb, and so if you don't kill the bulb, you're going to kill the leaves this year, and then they're just going to come back again next year. So the product I actually recommend is Weed Beater Ultra. Now there are a number of products that will kill this and also keep your grass safe. Those are called selective weed killers, and that's exactly what Bonide's Weed Beater Ultra is. So what I would plan on doing is actually putting down at least 2 applications, one now, and then see how long you can wait, depending on where you live and what the temperatures are, and then put down a second application. That should really take care of the onion grass visually. It may or may not, however, take care of the bulb. If you put it down very liberally, then chances are it's going to get into the bulb and it's going to kill the plant altogether. However, if you don't, it could just come back. So frankly, what I would recommend is if you don't have a lot of onion grass, I would spray it down with the Weed Beater Ultra and see what happens after that first application. Hit it a second time with Weed Beater Ultra, and if you still don't think you get it all because you see it starting to come back, then you're just going to have to get down on your hands and knees and start hand digging out that particular patch. I know that's not what you want to hear. Everybody just wants either some type of easy, natural, or a very quick chemical process for killing some of these weeds. But again, nature will often persevere, and so getting that bulb out of the soil is always going to take care of the problem, but Weed Beater Ultra is going to be a close second. So again, get down an application now, wait a couple of weeks, put down a second application, and then see how things go in the summertime. And as always, Weed Beater Ultra is available over at rosensonline.com. The fourth question is from Dennis. Tim, below is a picture of hydrangea leaf and flower damage from last year. It happened on all 6 of them. Can you tell me what this damage is and how to prevent it? So there are actually a number of potential issues that could cause this. However, I'm leaning towards a bacterial wilt. And the reason for that is, again, it's something that can really attack the root system and impact the leaves, impact the flowers. And if it's not taken care of, it can actually lead to the death of the plant because it ultimately would lead to something like root rot. Now, typically bacterial wilt occurs when there's a very, very hot summer and lots of rain. So you didn't tell me where you're from, but if that describes what you experienced last year, that could in fact be the problem. Now, from a chemical solution perspective, you actually want to use Monterey's Complete Plant Disease Control. This is available over at Rosen's Online. You can spray down the plant. I prefer to actually use it as a soil drench. I think it's more effective that way, so that's actually what I would recommend you use it for. And what that's going to do is actually start working on some of that bacteria, and it's actually a great source for preventing or helping to prevent root rot. So that's the product that I would put down, and I would frankly get that down now, especially if the hydrangeas are starting to become active and growing. Now, you also want to make sure that you keep your hydrangeas fed really, really well. So I would recommend putting down Garden Trust. Garden Trust provides a bunch of nutrition that's specifically formulated for plants like hydrangeas, and they should respond really, really well. It should help strengthen them up. And then I'd also put down Kickstart, because again, Kickstart is designed to impact the roots of any plant. So between the Monterey product, between Kickstart and Garden Trust, I think if you can get those down pretty soon, that really should help turn the plants around. Now, the other thing that you need to make sure you do is if you see any aspect of that plant become diseased, you need to prune it off immediately to help prevent the spread, really. There's no guarantee, especially if it's a bacteria in the root system. But again, if I'm wrong because we just don't have enough details and it's not bacterial wilt, you're going to want to prune that off, and that should help, hopefully, a healthier leaf or a healthier bloom take its place in the future. The final question for today is from Jim. Hi, Tim. I started my tomato and pepper seeds this week, and I was wondering if a little Kickstart would help them germinate. So you don't need to put Kickstart down once you put the seeds in the ground, but as soon as that germination process starts, then absolutely Kickstart is going to be beneficial to the plants. Now, we talk a lot about Kickstart on this program because of how great it is. It's great for grasses, trees, shrubs, vegetable plants. So putting it down early in that germination process is definitely going to be helpful. Now, I don't know what other way you're going to be feeding the plants, but obviously, because we're talking about tomatoes and peppers, I would highly recommend you also put down Garden Trust. So once you start putting down Kickstart, I would plan on putting that down once a week, maybe twice a month, again, to really establish the root system of those new plants. And then make sure you get down Garden Trust, because that Garden Trust is going to slowly feed your plants really for the entire season. So absolutely get that seed in the ground. Once the germination process starts, definitely hit it with Kickstart. And then once you see those plants start to break through, you can definitely put down some Garden Trust. And again, that's going to take you all the way well into summer in terms of feeding those plants. And you should have two really, really good crops between your tomatoes and your peppers. All right, folks, just a couple final thoughts. Unfortunately, the Turf Trust Triple Play is coming to an end this Sunday. That's Easter Sunday. So if you have not purchased the products that your lawn needs right now, make sure that you head over to rosensonline.com and take advantage of the product savings as well as the free shipping that accompanies all of the Triple Play promotional product packages. Again, it's ending this Sunday, so make sure you head over there right now. Folks, I also want to remind you, I've already talked a lot about Kickstart today, but you really need to start thinking about incorporating Kickstart, if you aren't already, into your regular maintenance regimen for your lawn as well as your plants, your trees, and your shrubs. Everything is really starting to green up, and that means that it's actively growing. The root systems are actively looking for nutrition, and it's a great way to strengthen the root system. So get Kickstart down right now. Folks, if you have questions, make sure that you send them directly to me, Tim at rosensonline.com. I will answer each and every email that comes my way. It's a real busy time of the year, so give me a couple of days to get back to you, but I promise that if I receive it, you will get a response. Folks, thank you so much for all the time that you devoted to watching this video podcast today. It means a lot to us here, and I hope that everybody has an amazing Easter Sunday this coming weekend. God bless.